Gospel of November the 6th, 2015, a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "A rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. He summoned him and said, 'What is this I hear about you? Prepare a full account of your stewardship, because you can no longer be my steward.' The steward said to himself, 'What shall I do, now that my master is taking the position of a steward away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, so that, when I am removed from the stewardship, they may welcome me into their homes.' He called in his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 measures of olive oil.' He said to him, 'Here is your promissory note. Sit down and quickly write one for 50. Then to another he said, 'And you, how much do you owe?' He replied, 100 measures of wheat.' He said to him, 'Here is your promissory note. Write one for 80. And the master commended that dishonest steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than the children of light.'" Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. We are going to dwell just in this beautiful Gospel, which is somehow mysterious. We read in the end how the Master commended the dishonest steward. And we would have to ask ourselves, is that a contradiction in the truth of the Lord? Because if he is commending a dishonest person, then shouldn't we also act like that? But whenever we find a contradiction, or what seems to be a contradiction in the Gospel, it is not for us to reject it or to believe that there truly is a contradiction. It is a calling on our mind, on our senses, to go deeper into the matter so that we can find out what is happening exactly. The Lord speaking to his disciples, not to the crowds, nor to the Pharisees, to his disciples. A rich man had a steward. Then we have to start asking ourselves, who is that rich man? Is that just a regular person in the world? Who is rich? Certainly the richest in the whole universe is God. And why would God have a steward? Are we not all his stewards? Do we not act exactly like that, squandering his property? I remember the Psalm, I believe it's 66, the Psalm that the Lord himself was repeating while being scourged at the praetorium. "I am your servant, the son of your handmaid." If that said the Lord about himself before his Father, then who am I and who are you? And if we truly accept to be the servants, and that applies both to those of us that accept it and also to those that do not accept it, because they still got their lives from the same hand, that is God's. If I am and you are his servant, then our whole possessions and our whole selves, our whole lives are his. Do we squander them? Let us start with the first and foremost expensive one, our life. Do we squander our life instead of administering correctly for the good of God and for the good of the children of God? Let us start by those who are charged with the highest responsibility. Let us speak about the bishops and the priests. Do they spend truly their whole 17 hours a day of vigil, truly working for the brethren? I know many priests that take the day off, that rest, that tend to work perhaps 6 hours a day and no more. Are they not squandering the life or the lifetime that God has allowed them? And when we have been charged with the grave responsibility of educating children, Do we not give them just an iPad or a laptop or some sort of smart telephone or even a TV and want them to be occupied there and not to bother us while we watch TV or drink or do something other than that? Are we not squandering the time of the Lord to do what is right? So we are. And we can also go on and on, from our health, through our own body, our hands that we're supposed to be helping anyone, our mind, our good conscience that we should be visiting the sick and attending them, visiting the ones that are imprisoned, and everything else. Our own self being given to the others, and then we are squandering that. So now, the Lord is setting before our very eyes a comparison about this bad steward. This bad steward, this unfaithful steward, actually called his master's debtors to reduce their debt. And that was an infamy to his master, because in that he produced perhaps more damage than he had done previously. But he was thinking that those that were benefited by his squandering, by his bad actions, would welcome him in their own homes. Don't forget that you owed 100 barrels of olive oil, and now I've saved you 50. Nowadays, none of us would invite any such a person to our homes, because we all know, or rather we would knew that if he had done such things with his master, he would still rob us every time he could enter into our own home. But that was his expectation. Why then does the Lord commended that dishonest steward acting? Because he acted prudently, and in the end we read this: the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than the children of light. Many times we hear that, and of course it is true, when we try to follow the Lord, when we try to become good, then obviously we would stop being cunning. We would stop trying to take advantage and to rob others. And the sons of the devil, that would like to take advantage of us, would immediately take advantage of us, and that is why we would become less prudent, less smart in dealing with this world. But unfortunately, I was saying, the whole parable is cut in half, because as we will hear tomorrow, where the Lord is saying, do the same with what you have. It is as the Lord had told the Pharisees, give alms of what you have, and then the whole thing that you have will become pure. We all are bad stewards in our lives before God. But if we could at least share some of that time, share some of our time, some of our money, some of our clothing, some of our food with others, then we will gain a place in heaven. Tomorrow it will be explained how the Lord tells us, make friends, have someone that receives you in heaven when you are taken away from the stewardship, that is, when you're called into account. May God grant us all to share a little bit of our food, a little bit of ourselves, a little bit for clothing and everything else, with the widow, the poor, the orphan, and every single one that is small, until we meet in heaven, dear brothers. God bless you all.